My mother died of ovarian cancer on September 11th, 2009. Her name was Jo. I've struggled with this speech, given the year that we've had at Stepping Stone, more than any other speaking engagement or speech. So I was thinking last night, you know, I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know what to talk about. And then I thought to myself, what if I wrote my mother a letter and told Mom what has happened since she's died? To write her a letter of kind of like a bit of a chapter, just to say, in addition to how her grandchild is growing up, and that I'm now with a new partner, and that we've now moved, to fill her in on what's been going on at work, because Mom loved Stepping Stone very much, and she got to know the women that we worked with there, and she loved them as well. So this is the letter that I wrote to my mother last night. Dear Mom, you wouldn't believe the year we had. I can honestly say that this was one of the most craziest, unpredictable, intense roller coaster of a ride years it has been to be a sex work advocate in Halifax, Nova Scotia. There have been ad campaigns, court cases, fundraisers, even a couple of pole dances in there at the fundraiser, of course. There's been a vigil. There has been violence, and there's been a lot of tears. So I guess, Mom, the obvious place is to talk about the violence. I have yet to see as much violence against sex workers in all my 7 years of advocating for them. And I thought I'd seen my fill. There's one case, Mom, I don't even know where to begin to tell you about it, and it's hard for me to tell you because even though you're my mom, we still don't want to breach confidentiality, but it's all over the papers, or it has been. Basically, a woman was 10 minutes late for her court appearance. She was a sex worker. She was 10 minutes late because she was part of the methadone treatment program, and I'm not breaking confidentiality, Mom, because that's what the paper had said, and that's what she reported to the paper. What's not in the paper is that when she was 10 minutes late and she rushed into the courtroom, that our Linda, our court support advocacy officer, was sitting there in the courtroom waiting for her. And the guy got off because she was late. What they didn't report in the paper, Mom, is that when he walked out of the courtroom, he turned around and he looked at us and he smirked. He smirked at us because he knew he got off. Without going into too much details and threatening my job, Mom, I can tell you that he is accused of violently attacking another one of the women. Kidnapped her, raped her, stuffed her in a trunk. You know, Mom, the usual. I've been telling you these stories for 7 years. And then there was the murder. Mom, I wish you could have met her. You would have loved her. She was so kind and funny. And you know, Mom, people think that it is all depressing at Stepping Stone in our drop-in center. They don't see the laughter. They don't see us carrying on. They don't see the kind of community that we have at the house. It never gets any easier, Mom. Watching women that you've worked with, that you know on a regular basis, one day you're doing their taxes and the next minute you get a call from the police, who really don't call you that often, and say, we can't find her. So we did the math this year. 17 missing and murdered women who were sex workers since 1985 in Halifax. You know, Mom, they actually questioned us about those numbers. And it makes sense, really, why they did. I mean, we're a very public organization, but we're very private. And of course, we know who is working as a sex worker. There's still so much stigma around it. But you know why I think they questioned us about those numbers is because those deaths were reported on. But they were in this very small little corner in the Herald or in the Globe and Mail. Hooker found dead in dumpster. You know, Mom, I gotta be honest with you, it's getting to the point right now where I look at a dumpster and I see a dead woman. As I said, there was many close calls. You know, people think that just because we don't have a Hollis Street stroll anymore, that the street trade isn't there. That we do work with 115 sex workers on average per month. The women are there, they're working, but they're pushed on the margins. They're pushed on the margins because they continue to be society's punching bag. Mom, do you remember before you died, there was this woman who we'll call Lee. Well, that's what I always told her that your name was. Lee was attacked in the alley, and she almost died. Lee ID'd the guy that almost killed her. The guy that the only thing that saved her life was when he was raping her, she bit down. And then he took up a 2x4, and then he smacked her upside the head with it, and then she screamed. I don't know how she lived and survived this, but she did. She was able to ID the guy, but she never made it to ID him. She was picked up on boundaries and placed on house arrest. She was placed on boundaries because she was a sex worker, and as you know, Mom, they're still pushing sex workers out from areas where even Stepping Stone is, because they're a sex worker. And no, Mom, since you've left, there still has not been any John that's been placed on boundaries. That was a couple of years ago. Lee is still going to court over that original 213 charge that led to her boundaries, that led to her breach, that led to another breach. The guy is still the guy's still out there. Mom, I don't know how sex workers do it. They live with such violence while society turns a blind eye. But I guess that's why we did what we did this year when we started a public ad campaign. So, Mom, we have something that we wanted to tell you. We really couldn't get anybody to be in our ad campaign. So we kind of got Nanny Lee's, a.k.a. your mom, to be in the ad campaign. And, Mom, we kind of called you a tramp. I thought it was fine. It's a beautiful picture. Mom, Nanny Lee's looks great. Grampy waited in the car, you know. If she was very excited. She got to a makeup artist for the first time. And you know what? It worked. We got the message out that sex workers are mothers, they're grandmothers, and they're people. Well, Mom, that's when the hate mail started. Yeah, Nanny Lee's got hate mail. Nanny Lee's got hate mail from across the country saying that she was promoting sex. I will say that Nanny Lee's went back to her church choir where she remains the most popular member and told everybody, I'm promoting sex in Halifax. So, no harm done. What's crazy, Mom, is that the letters were coming from other women. They're coming from other women. Nothing has changed since you left, Mom, really, as regards as to where sex workers are within the rights movement, within the women's movement. I'm writing you this today because I'm at this event for International Women's Day, and I'm supposed to be celebrating, but Mom, it's really hard because I don't know how much of a celebratory mood that we're in this year. I'd like to tell you, Mom, that the stigma has decreased quite a bit since you were around, but it hasn't. People still think that our friends all have the same story, that they all have pimps, that they were all sexually assaulted, that sex workers are the vector of disease, that sex workers don't use condoms. Oh, Mom, 16,000 condoms we go through a year. I am now known still as the condom fairy in Halifax around close circles. People still think that sex workers don't use condoms. Which I also find really ironic, Mom, because on the other hand, they also blame sex workers for leaving condoms everywhere. So I really don't get it. We lost the housing program. Patty's no longer with us, but she comes in whenever her days off are to work for us for free. Why did we lose the program? Well, Stephen Harper's still the Prime Minister. And harm reduction is still a bad word as far as funding in certain circles goes. It's still an uphill battle. But things are looking up, Mom. We had our first public international day to end violence against sex workers. It was our coming out party, and Mom, it was fantastic. And not only that, Mom, Valerie Scott and the gang did it in Ontario. They actually won the case to decriminalize sex work in Ontario that they'd launched. Mom, I almost peed myself when I heard. I was like, we really didn't think that we would get it. You knew this? We had been saying for years and years and years at our organization how much these laws are hurting the women, how much it's hurting trans sex workers, how much it's hurting male sex workers, how much these laws are hurting community, how many reports of violence that are not going to the police, how much the trust is broken down. Mom, I'm also writing you this because before you died, I'd come to you as, well, as you had said at that time, not very many mothers have their daughters coming to them upset because they were never a prostitute. I remember that day that I came with you, and we're sitting on the couch. You had just had your chemo treatment, and I said, Mom, I'm one of the only ones that's not a former sex worker. How can I possibly be qualified to speak on their behalf, to speak of the challenges they face, of the violence, of the stigma? Mom, your answer to me was that you do not have to give birth to be a mother. Well, Mom, at that time I'd thought that, of course, you're right. But you know what? It turns out this past year since you've been gone, they've ended up being my mother. That's what people don't realize, is the human stories behind it. That when I quit smoking and I gained 20 pounds and my pants wouldn't fit me anymore, the program user said, Rene, you need to get some jeans on that look good on that butt of yours, or at least grow a butt. And we know that's not happening. Let us go to the church and pick you up a pair of jeans because we know that you don't have time to go out and go shopping and you're a single mom. I said, look, guys, you cannot do that. And I certainly cannot accept donations. It's against policy. Well, Mom, I still don't know who did it, but I went into to work one day, and there was a bag with a pair of jeans on it that were my new size, sitting on my desk, with a note that said, shut up and take your present. They know that the kind of ovarian cancer that you have that killed you is genetic. They are after me on a monthly basis to go and get my tests done. They ask about Zoe, and when they see Zoe walking down the street, they're the first ones to come over and say, "You girl, how are you?" These are not our clients. These are our friends, and these are our family, and these are women. These are our mothers, our brothers, our sisters, and our daughters. So I guess, Mom, in the end, it's been a really rough year, but you know what? I'm still standing. And I'm still standing because that's what the sex workers taught me to do. I miss you. Thank you. Good night.